Hello friends, welcome to EduTap and also welcome to the series which we have started for IBPS AF4 2020-21, especially agriculture, that is mains exam. And here this is lecture number 41 and today we are going to do the questions that were asked in IBPS A4 mains exam in the year 2017. That is, this was done as part of 2016-17 exam. And see friends, I have divided this into two parts. In lecture number 41, we'll be doing half of the questions which I could collate, because since these are memory based questions, I could collate only a few questions, not all 60, but yes, more than 55. So half of that we shall do in lecture number 41, and in lecture number 42 I shall take you through the rest half. So let's start with the session. So friends, before getting into course details and various other course offerings, let me take you through our success stories which we have achieved since the past few years. And these are the students who have achieved their dream of becoming AFO during last year, that is IBPS AFO 2019 exam. And not only that, we have students in top 10 all India ranks as well, and we have few students in top 20 as well, and we have many students who are in top 50 all India ranks and achieved their dream of becoming an AFO. So friends, we have already launched our AFO 2020-21 courses exclusively for mains exam, and I have already provided you with the links to demo courses as well as payment links for purchase of courses in the description box. You can go through that, and if you still have any queries related to course offerings, anything related to that, you can always write to us at hello@edutap.co.in, or you can visit our website for further details. So friends, here comes the first question, which is agri found red. It is a variety of which crop? This is a variety of onion crop which has reddish tinge, and this is developed by National Horticulture Research Development Foundation, Dindigul, which is in Tamil Nadu, and the average bulb size is 7.15 centimeters, weighing 65 to 67 grams, and the speciality of this is it is light red in color and sweet in nature. It has 15 to 16% TSS, and it matures in 65 to 67 days after planting, and yield is 18 to 20 tons per hectare. And this is one of the varieties that is generally exported. Here comes the next question. Which of the following is not a micronutrient? See, they have given in the exam, they have given a list of nutrients, and in that you have to find out which is not a micronutrient. And as per the list provided, the correct answer is nitrogen. It is a macronutrient. And nutrients generally which are required by the plants in concentrations greater than 1 ppm, they are considered as macronutrients, which includes nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, and the nutrients which are required by the plants in concentrations less than 1 ppm, they are considered to be micronutrients, which include iron, manganese, zinc, copper, boron, chlorine, molybdenum, nickel. So friends, here comes our next question, which is one straight question. Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR, it was founded on the date they had asked, and the correct answer is 16 July 1929. And ICAR is one such organization which coordinates India's entire agricultural education and research. And this, it reports to Department of that is DARE, Department of Agriculture and Research Education, which again is under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. And the Union Minister of Agriculture, he or she serves as a president of ICAR. And ICAR, they have they had launched NARP, National Agricultural Research Project, under which all the research activities for especially for agriculture purpose, they are conducted under various institutions again. So friends, here comes the next question. One straight question again. pH of alkali soils is, and the correct answer is Alkali soils pH is greater than 8.5. Alkali or alkaline soils, they are generally clayey soils with high pH, that is greater than 8.5, with a very poor soil structure and a low infiltration capacity. So here exchangeable sodium percentage of alkali soils is greater than 15, and EC, electrical conductivity of alkali soils, is less than 4 decisiemens per meter. So friends, the question here says, which again is one straight question, what is the seed rate of rice for line sowing or drilling method? See, we have already studied about various methods of sowing for paddy, of which line sowing is one. So as per the method of sowing is that is adopted, the seed rate also differs. As you can see, for line sowing or drilling method, it's 60 kg per hectare, and whereas like broadcasting, it requires 100 kg per hectare, DAPOC method 1.5 to 3 kg per hectare, SRE method of cultivation 5 to 8 kg per hectare, hybrid rice again 15 to 18 kg per hectare is required. See, the seed rate whatever mentioned here is plus or minus, it would be different, because based on the area in which they are being done, the type of climate, the type of soils they have, and the type of water facilities, all those also impact the seed rate to a smaller extent, like plus or minus 3 kg per hectare or so when it is higher seed rate. So friends, this one, it's a definition. The re-infiltration of water through soil surface is known as this. The re-infiltration of water through soil surface is known as percolation. Percolation generally occurs in saturated soils, and percolation rate is higher in sandy soils and least in clay soils because of the type of the soil particle structure it has and the amount of space between those soil particles. So friends, here comes the next question. Seed rate of hybrid maize crop is, it is 25 kg per hectare, and seed rate for fodder maize is 40 to 50 kg per hectare. More of vegetative growth is required, so more of the seeds. Seed rate for hybrid maize we have already seen, and seed rate for composite maize is 15 to 20 kg, which is generally grown for seed purpose or grain purpose. Here see, composite is nothing but it's a mixture of varieties of maize where the phenotypically they are similar, like the size, the height, or the whatever the phenotypical characters are there, they are similar, but otherwise they are different varieties. So that is called as composite maize, which attracts a seed rate of 15 to 20 kg per hectare. So friends, here comes the next question. Which of the following states is having the maximum area under forest cover in India? This is based on Indian State Forest Report, and this was the earlier report of from which the answer was there, but here I have included the answer for this current year, that is ISFR 2019, based on which Madhya Pradesh is a state which has maximum area under forest cover. As you can see here, according to ISFR 2019, the total forest and tree cover in the country is 80.73 million hectares, which is 24.56% of the geographical area of country. This consists of total forest plus tree cover. Area wise, Madhya Pradesh has the largest forest cover in the country, followed by Arunachal Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Maharashtra. And in terms of forest area, forest cover as percentage of total geographical area, top 5 states are Mizoram, in where 85.41% of the total geographical area of that state is under forest cover only. Next comes is Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Manipur and Nagaland. All the northeastern states, they have good amount of the geographical area covered under forest cover. So friends, next comes is, what is the economic lifespan of coconut? So on an average it is 40 to 50 years. So friends, next comes is, which of the following nutrients is helpful in root development of plants? See, for root development of plants, phosphorus is very important. See, phosphorus encourages plants to put down a dense collection of new roots and strengthen the existing roots as they develop. So phosphorus helps establish healthy root system at the beginning of the growth, hence it is important for root development in plants. So friends, next comes is which of the following breeds of buffalo is having the highest percentage of milk fat, especially this is indigenous breeds. The question was asked on indigenous breeds, and the correct answer was Badavari. And this Badavari is home tract is Agra and Etawah district of Uttar Pradesh and Gwalior district of Madhya Pradesh. And the peculiarity of this breed is they are usually light or copper colored, and eyelids are also generally copper or light brown in color. Two white lines chevron they are present at the lower side of the neck, similar to that of Surti buffaloes, and the average milk yield is 800 to 1000 kgs per lactation. And the bullocks are good draught animals with high heat tolerance, and the fat content varies from 6 to 13%. And this breed is an efficient converter of coarse feed into butter fat and is known for its high butter fat content. So this is the speciality of this Bhadavari indigenous breed of India. So friends, next comes is black heart of potato. It is due to the deficiency of. See friends, this generally occurs in storage conditions where the potato is stored, and this is because of the lack of a deficiency of oxygen. See, this occurs in those storage conditions where there is less oxygen supply or sometimes more of carbon dioxide in the surrounding air. This happens, the black heart of potato occurs, wherein the blackening of the tuber occurs right from the center towards the outside. And when the acute oxygen deficiency occurs, this will happen and in confined storage. But in sometimes field also it can happen when soil temperatures are very high. There is no smell as such, but slowly from inside out they start dying and they turn jet black, and these affected tubers they'll rot later, leading to that smell. But otherwise earlier when this blackening of the tuber occurs, there won't be any smell. So friends, here comes what is the plant population of long duration rice crop per hectare. See, as per we have already discussed in one of our classes that as per the duration of the paddy also the seed rate differs and the spacing also differs. So based on that spacing, long duration crop per hectare generally 3,33,000 plants per hectare would be the plant population. So friends, next comes is what is the capacity of tractor drawn to bottom mold board plow. So what is the capacity? It can plow at least 1.5 to 2 hectares per day. And the various parts of moldboard plow include share moldboard. This is the one that's a curved part which lifts and turns the slice of that soil. And it also has landslide, frog, tailpiece, and this moldboard, based on the type of soil in which they are used, there are various types of moldboards. And otherwise the capacity is 1.5 to 2 hectares per day. So friends, next comes is which of the following is the causal organism of black mildew of mango, or it is also called as mango sooty mold, and this is caused by Meliola mangiferae. And this Meliola mangiferae generally attacks those plant where already some kind of insect attack is there, which secrete sugary secretions. They feed on that sugary secretions and they grow on them, and because of which a dark encrustation is formed, black encrustation is formed, which avoids the photosynthetic activity of the plants. And the sugary secretions can be secreted by either plant hoppers or jacids or aphids or even scale insects. And generally the fungi, the mycelium of the fungi is black in color, hence the end it is black, so it's called black mildew of mango. So what are the management practices that can be followed? The best management practices that can be followed is first control the insects. All these type of insects like plant hoppers, jassids, aphids, scale insects, automatically the Meliola mangifera gets, it can be controlled. And these insects can be controlled by spraying systemic insecticides like monocrotophos or methyl or, you know, starch solution, that is 1 kg starch or maida. It can be mixed in 5 liters of water, boiled and diluted to 20 liters. Now this starch, when sprayed on the plants, they form a starchy layer. After a few hours or a day or two, that gets dried up, that starch, because it forms a thin layer. Now the dried starch, it forms flakes like, which can be removed along with the fungus. The fungus gets stuck to that flake. So when that is removed, the fungus can be removed. So that's also one way. When there is less trees and you have good amount of labor, this can be done. Or spraying of 1% Bordeaux mixture can also be done, which is recommended practice. So friends, next comes is aluminum phosphide. Is what exactly is it? Is it an insecticide? Is it a pesticide? What is it? It's a rodenticide. This is used to control the rodents, especially in storage conditions. See, it is used to kill the small verminous animals such as moles and rodents. As a rodenticide, aluminum phosphide pellets are provided as a mixture with food for consumption by the rodents. Now, this acid, the acid in the digestive system of the rodents reacts with phosphide to generate the toxic phosphine gas, because of which they die. So friends, next comes is, what is the maximum financial assistance or subsidy to purchase 10 HP pump for irrigation purpose? And here the maximum financial assistance or subsidy that is provided is 10,000 or 50% of the cost of pump, whichever is less, that is provided by the government. So friends, next comes is, which of the following is or are the off-season tillage operations? See friends, based on the time when these tillage operations are done, they are on-season tillage operations, which include primary, secondary, etc. And off-season, they are done during summer when there is no crop. Generally, when there is no crop, this is done. And one of that is fallow tillage, which was there in the option. And see, the tillage operations generally done for conditioning of soil suitably for the forthcoming main season crop. Those are called as off-season tillage, which include post-harvest tillage, summer tillage, winter tillage, fallow tillage. They prepare the soil so that the suitability will be maintained for the main cropping season. So that is called as off-season tillage, and fallow tillage is one of that which was mentioned in the options. So friends, next comes is, the seeds are dropped in the furrows opened by the plow, and the same is closed or covered when the next furrow is opened. This type of seeding is called as, so friend, this is called as seed or sowing behind the plow. This is the most common method followed in villages, and it is used for bigger seeds like maize, gram, peas, wheat, barley, etc. See, a man, he walked behind the fur, that plow, to drop the seeds in the furrow. And now the sowing behind the plow can be done, it also can be done by the by a device. It's called as a malobansa, and it consists of a bamboo tube provided with a funnel shaped mouth in which you can drop the seeds. And see, as you can see, one man drops the seeds through the funnel and the other handles the plow and the bullocks in front. So slowly the seed drops into the furrow, and when the other the side, when he turns around and goes on plowing the second line, when this furrow is open, the soil falls onto this furrow, closing this. So this type of sowing is called as sowing behind the plow. This is one slow and laborious process, and also the distance, proper distance cannot be maintained. The row to row distance is maintained, but the intra row distance cannot be maintained properly in this type of sowing. So friends, next comes is, what is the depth of ploughing for shallow rooted crops? For them, 5 to 6 centimeters is sufficient. And CREDA, that is Central Research Institute for Dryland Agriculture, which is headquartered at Hyderabad, they have classified ploughing according to the depth of that root system. And as per them, shallow ploughing is something, it requires a ploughing depth of 5 to 6 centimeters, medium deep ploughing 15 to 20 centimeters, and deep ploughing for 25 to 30 centimeters. So friends, here comes the next question. According to NABARD, that is as per their NABARD model bankable projects, which goes without saying, what should be the floor space per bird in brooder cum grower house? That is especially deep litter system, and the correct answer is 1 square feet per bird. And if it is cage system, then it would be 0.85 square feet. So friends, here comes the next question. What is the financial assistance per beneficiary per hectare for adoption of organic farming under National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture? Friends, as per this, they provide 10,000 rupees per beneficiary, and the financial assistance actually is up to 50% of cost, subject to a limit of 5,000 per hectare, and 10,000 per beneficiary is provided for promotion of organic inputs. And financial assistance of at the rate of 20,000 per hectare, subject to maximum of 40,000 per beneficiary for 3-year term, is provided for adoption of organic farming through cluster approach, as well as through adoption of organic village under participatory guarantee system certification. We have covered this elaborately in one of our chapters, that is organic farming. And financial assistance of rupees 10 lakhs per village is provided for organic village adoption, that is maximum 10 villages per annum per state. This is what the government is trying, so that farmers convert themselves into for organic farming, so that the sustainable agriculture can be done, and also the life of soil can be maintained. So friends, next comes is optimum temperature requirement for wheat crop. This is a temperate crop, so it requires lower temperatures, and here it's 20 to 25 degrees centigrade. And the best wheat are produced in areas favored with cool moist weather during the major portion of the growing period, followed by a dry warm weather to enable the grain to ripen properly. So first it should be cool, but when the grain starts to form, then it should be dry, so that they can ripe and dry properly. And the optimum temperature range for ideal germination of wheat seed is 20 to 25 degrees centigrade, though the seeds can germinate in the temperature ranges of even 3.5 degrees to 35 degrees centigrade, but this is the ideal temperature for the seeds to germinate. So friends, next question says, which of the following is the storage grain pest? See friends, there can the pest can be classified into two major types based on where they are attacking, directly on the plants or in the storage. So they are either the field pests or the storage pests. So here Capra beetle is one, that is stored grain pest, and this the scientific name is Trogoderma granarium. It's also called as cabinet beetle. The adult beetles are brownish or reddish, very small, 1.6 to 3 mm long only, and the immature larvae are up to even 5 mm long and are covered in dense reddish brown hair. And the larval stage, it can last up to 4 to 6 weeks, and the males are darker than females, and the lifespan of Capra beetle is usually between 5 to 10 days only, but during that period only they bore into the seed, and they feed on that seed. The beetles prefer hot dry conditions and can be found in areas where grain and other potential food is stored. So friends, next comes is National Research Center for Groundnut is located at Junagadh in Junagadh, Gujarat. and that ICAR, National Directorate of Groundnut Research, formerly known as National Research Center for Groundnut. It is a premier national institute set up by ICAR, especially for groundnut, because Junagadh in Gujarat is one area where, you know, vast area is under groundnut cultivation. And this ICAR DGR, it was established on 1st October 1971 to give boost to the research for enhancing productivity of groundnut, keeping that's one of the important oilseed crops of India. And NRC on groundnut was elevated to the level of a directorate in the year 2009, and then during that time the name was given Directorate of Groundnut Research in 2009. Earlier it was National Research Center for Groundnut only. So friends, next question, which of the following agroclimatic zones consists subzones of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand? See friends, we have studied exclusively and very deeply about these agroclimatic zones in agrometallurgy chapter, and here Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, they come under Western Himalayan agroclimatic zone. And see, the planning commission, it has divided based on the inputs from the various state universities and the impetus from ICAR. They have divided our country into 15 broad agroclimatic zones. On what basis? Based on physiography, soils, geological formation, climate, the cropping patterns, development of irrigation, all these, they have considered all these and classified India into 15 agroclimatic zones, of which Western Himalaya agroclimatic zone is one, under which these Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, they fall. And the major crops grown in Western Himalayan agroclimatic zones, they are rice, maize, barley, oats, wheat, apples, peaches, apricot, pears, cherry. These are the one exclusively grown in this area, and saffron is one such crop which grows exclusively in this agroclimatic zone only. So topography and temperature shows great variation here, and average temperatures in summer ranges from 5 to 30 degrees centigrade, whereas winter ranges from 5 to minus 5 degrees centigrade, and mean annual rainfall is 75 to 150 centimeters. The main problem of this region is of poor accessibility, soil erosion, landslides, inclement weather, inadequacy of marketing and storage facilities. All these are the various problems this particular region is facing, and the government is trying to put its best foot forward so that all these can be addressed, and to provide best marketing and storage facilities, because few crops are exclusively, or they can be exclusively grown in this region only. So friends, next comes is which of the following is the dual purpose indigenous cattle breed? It includes, here as per the options provided, it's Haryana. There are various other types as well, of which Haryana actually is one of the famous dual purpose indigenous cattle breed in India. This is mainly found in Karnal, Hisar and Gurgaon districts of Haryana, Delhi and Western Madhya Pradesh. The horns are very small, but the bullocks are very powerful work animals. These are fair milk yielders also, and per lactation they can produce somewhere around 600 to 800 kgs of milk, and bullocks are powerful for road transport and rapid ploughing. So friends, next comes is which of the following is the causal organism of bacterial spot of citrus? This is one straight question again, and the causal organism is Xanthomonas, Axonopodes, Pathover citri and Citrumello. And here the symptoms include, actually the acid limes, lemon, grapefruit, all are affected with this, but this bacterial spot of citrus is rare on sweet oranges and mandarins. It affects leaf, twig and fruits, and lesions, the spots, they're typically circular with yellow halo, appear on both sides of the leaf, but it is severe in acid limes. And when lesions are produced on twigs, they are girdled and they die also, the leaves. On fruits, lesions reduce market value. Obviously, when there are lesions or some marks, market value will be dropped. What might be the management practices that can be followed? Spraying of streptomycin sulfate 500 1000 ppm or phytomycin 2500 ppm or copper oxychloride 0.2% at fortnightly intervals that can control this bacterial spot of citrus. And controlling leaf minus when young flush is produced will also control this. Prune badly infected twigs before the onset of monsoon to avoid further infection and also to protect the crop further. So friends, here comes the answer to the homework question. In the last session, I had asked you a question about zinc solubilizing microbes and plant growth promoting microbes. Zinc solubilizing microbes, they include Pseudomonas species, which includes Pseudomonas striata, Pseudomonas fluorescens, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and Gluconacidobacter, Diazotrophicus, and Bacillus species. These are the ones they help in solubilizing the zinc that is present in the soil and making it available to the plants. And then there are various plant growth promoting microbes also, of which reside in the rhizosphere of the plant in the soil. They are called as plant growth promoting rhizobacteria, which include various inoculants such as bioprotectants which help in combating the disease and pests in the plants. We have already discussed that. Improve the nutrient condition of the soil so that the plant can grow in a healthy way. Biofertilizers, Rhizobium, Azospirillum, Azotobacter, many are there which we have already discussed. Or even sometimes they help in providing phytohormone production, which are called as biostimulants. These inoculants are put, they help in production of those phytohormones, thereby helping them to grow in a healthy way. So these are various types, or in various ways the plant growth promoting microbes are helpful to the plants. So friends, here comes today's homework question, which says muriate of potash. It's one of the potassic fertilizers. It is objectionable to some crops. Why? What are the examples of such crops? You have to give me the reason and also example of such crops where this muriate of potash is objectionable, because of which sulfate of potash is generally used for such crops.